Today, Pandora and home prices. Hello again, it's Martin North from Digital Finance Analytics. Well, I've noticed post covering finance and property news with a distinctively Australian flavour. I have been banging on for years about the fact that in Australia, property prices are being driven higher thanks to criminal activity, money laundering and poor regulation. Other people, I think, have been slow to the party, but it's interesting to see that Alan Kohler's now come out in an article in the New Daily and made the points I've been trying to make for some time. He says the most disturbing part of the Four Corners programme this week about the Pandora Papers leak was the statement by Green Senator Peter Whish-Wilson that lobbying and donations by lawyers, accountants and real estate agents have successfully blocked any action on money laundering in Australia. That kleptocrats and other rich thieves are hiding trillions of dollars from authorities and tax collectors is no surprise, although it's good that there are another 11.9 million documents in the hands of journalists to prove it. But Australian lawyers, accountants and real estate agents lobbying to stop the government doing something about it, and both major parties apparently complying, is both sadly believable and shameful. And as Michael Pascoe pointed out on Wednesday, the Morrison government's aversion to transparency is consistent at least. Two key things have not been done. First, the 2006 Anti-Money Laundering and Counter-Terrorism Financing, the AML-CTF laws, have not been amended as promised to include lawyers, accountants and real estate agents, so they still only apply to banks and casinos. And second, the government has not introduced a Register of Beneficial Ownership, the RBO, as it promised back in 2016. When the AML-CTF laws were passed in 2006 and AUSTRAC was set up, there was meant to be a second tranche of the law that required lawyers, accountants and real estate agents, along with banks and casinos, to report suspicious transactions. But it didn't happen while the coalition was in power, and the Labour Party didn't do it during its 6 years either. Inaction on both sides. And last December, the government put forward a minor amendment to the AML-TLCF law, and the Greens used it to put up a further amendment requiring the second tranche to be legislated by 1 July this year. Both major parties voted against it. In announcing Labour's vote, Senator Kimberley Kitchen said, "Whilst we support the intent of the additional designated services proposed by the Greens, Labour does not believe this is the right way to achieve considered law reform. We are concerned about the unintended consequences of this amendment and want to make sure our counter-terrorism financing laws make it harder, not easier, for money launderers or terrorist financiers." According to the Greens Treasury spokesman Senator Nick McKim, Australia is now one of only 6 countries in the world not to have included the gatekeepers within the scope of anti-money laundering and counter-terrorism financing laws. And the others are the United States, China, Madagascar, Mauritius and Mongolia. As for the separate issue for a Register of Beneficial Ownership to remove the cloak of secrecy after the Pandora Papers in 2016, which was the first big leak about hidden offshore money, the then Assistant Treasurer Kelly O'Dwyer said, "We agreed that there needs to be a register of beneficial ownership in this country." Her successor, Stuart Robert, later said, "We remain committed and we're considering options." In 2016, the government launched something called the Open Government National Action Plan, which involved a consultation period that ended in March 2017, but then nothing happened. And in response to a question on notice from Senator Whish-Wilson, Treasury rewrote history. No commitment to implement a register has been made by government. One of the key points made by several people in the Four Corners piece on Monday was that money laundering and tax avoidance are partly responsible for Australia's high house prices, because crooks and tax avoiders are using their secret cash to buy real estate and bid up prices. And AUSTRAC supports that idea in a risk assessment of money laundering and terrorism financing published this year. AUSTRAC included among the possible consequences of criminal activity in the financial system widespread or concentrated real estate purchases with the proceeds of crime, driving property prices up and pricing legitimate buyers out of the market. But the chairman of the House of Representatives Committee on Tax and Revenue, Jason Falinski, who is currently running an inquiry into housing affordability and supply, told me this week, he said, he thinks that's simply not true. We asked the CEOs of the big four banks, ASIC and APRA, whether it would be possible to launder money through Australian real estate, and they all said it wouldn't be, he said. For a start, the Know Your Customer rules require land registry offices to record the beneficial owners of property, even if the registered owner is a nominee company. And also any unfinanced purchases trigger an ATO alert. But the Pandora papers reveal that some of the dark cash has made its way into commercial real estate, including farms, but the evidence of residential buying is more sketchy. But even if house prices are not a reason to do something about clandestine foreign investment in Australia being used for money laundering and tax avoidance, there are plenty of others. The main one being simply that the rest of us globally are paying more tax than we should to finance the operation of governments. Rich crooks who use tax havens and bring money back here to spend it are allowed to stay cloaked because of the failures by the Australian government to do what it said it would do. And that seems to have happened because lawyers, accountants and real estate agents lobbied them and perhaps donated some of the dirty cash to them. I have to agree, I think that the real estate sector is littered with poor regulation, and anti-money laundering rules do need to be focused in the right areas. And of course, there are so many vested interests. Why am I not surprised that nothing's happened? I'm Martin North from Digital Finance Analytics. Many thanks for watching, and I'll see you again next time.